Okay, is Trump asking us to narc on the National Park Service? Check out this sign. It reads, "Please let us know if you have identified any signs or other information that are negative about either past or living Americans." Wait.
You want to see what real independent journalism funded by the people for the people looks like?
You ever heard a story like this in America?
You're looking at it.
Congratulations for always being somewhere where mainstream media is not.
Flint, Michigan.
See you in Nevada.
Thanks to people like you, we can get the truth. Corporate media, they've been lying to us for years, and you're going straight to the people.
You are the man. I'm glad you're here.
For as low as 16 cents a day, you'll keep us on the ground, covering the important stories the corporate media covers up. Hey, it's Jordan with Status Coup. As President Trump descends further into North Korea, our dear leader, territory, he is now trying to whitewash U.S. history further by erasing the genocide, murder, raping, and kidnappings of Native Americans, along with the horrible stain of slavery. At several other national parks, the Trump administration has ordered the removal of signs and other materials that state the land once belonged to Native Americans, tribes, according to one of the people briefed on the matter. Tribes were forcibly removed from lands across the American West that later became national parks. For instance, the U.S. military forced the Shoshone, Bannock, and other tribes from what is now Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming, Idaho, and Montana. From NPR, this is from an interview NPR did about this. I was talking to Park Service people yesterday, and they were saying that they're looking at more than 1,000 items that employees have reported around the country. That's because the employees of the Park Service are being pushed by the Trump administration to report these inappropriate signs of our history and remove them. Much of the content revolves around the history of slavery. For instance, the administration wants this graphic photo taken down at one park. It's of an enslaved man who was whipped so hard he has scars on his back. As the Washington Post first reported, this is a historic image of a slave who was basically tortured by the slave master, called The Scourged Back, showing the scarring of an escaped slave, Peter Gordon, in Louisiana in 1863. So naturally, Trump wants that removed from national parks, museums. We don't want to dwell on the bad stuff, right? Just show the happy, generous white people that are the foundation of America. Let me give you some examples. Signs that address sea level rise and climate change at Cape Hatteras National Seashore is one. Others that explain how Native Americans were forced off park land. And there are even references to the impact of urbanization and agriculture on the Everglades. There was one park employee who wrote that could, quote, be seen as, quote, disparaging the development of industrial America. NPR asks, all right, now you've been talking to people inside the Park Service. Are they all on board with all of this? Well, I mean, some no doubt do agree with the president or are helping with this. But others I've talked to say that most people don't like it. They say employees are mostly flagging these signs as to avoid getting in trouble. And they think that this is really an attempt to erase uncomfortable parts of the country's history and control intellectual discourse. Now, park employees I've talked to, they don't want to use their names. They're afraid of being fired. But one described the Trump administration like this, quote, they want to control the narrative. If you control the narrative, you control the people. Like the Republicans have tried to do this vigilante justice and deputizing random people to, rat out doctors or neighbors that might be assisting women getting abortions, go after them. Anyone who's, aiding and abetting. They are now asking park visitors to submit troublesome signs like Native Americans were the original inhabitants of these parks, or troublesome signs that indicate our history of slavery. Submit those to the U.S. government. So not only park employees, but park visitors are being deputized to whitewash our history. In detail, over the summer, the Park Service provided these QR codes for visitors to comment on any signs that they thought needed to be changed. I was leaked about 2,200 of these, and I read through them, and there's one visitor who flagged a sign on territorial expansion. It said Native Americans were, quote, starved into submission to the white man's will. And the visitor found that was, pretty stark and reductive. We have comment periods in America that are basically, dog and pony shows for pipelines, for other environmental projects that the public are widely against. One example was the Cop City militarized police compound that we covered on the ground, thanks to you supporting us. Those were the protests against that totally unnecessary, frankly, imperial monstrosity police compound in the Atlanta area public protected forest. And all the public comments were against it. All the people were against it at city council meeting. Of course, the corrupt government, in that case, Democrats, rubber stamped it through anyway. Fortunately, a judge just dismissed the insane domestic terrorism charges against 61 of the protesters who did nothing other than peacefully protest. They were stuck in this hellish court case being charged as domestic terrorists. But I bring this up because public comments are usually completely ignored if it has to do with people being against environmental oil pipelines, mining sites, data centers that are popping up all over the place. But now, in the reverse, oh no, the Trump administration, they want the public comments, and they are going to use public comments from bigots saying, yeah, we should remove these signs about Native Americans once being here and forced off the land, or these signs or images of, slaves being tortured to death with scarred backs. Let's get rid of them. They're reductive. Those public comments they like. Public comments against, toxic, deadly, cancerous pipelines, mines, factories, plants. We're just going to dismiss those ones. It's just disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And it kind of goes with the attack. Donald Trump's been attacking Native Americans his whole life, especially his business life. But it goes to just a few months ago, him trying to get rid of birthright citizenship, basically by questioning the origin of birthright citizenship, Native Americans. Trump's longstanding desire to end birthright citizenship took a dramatic turn in late January with the issuance of an executive order aimed at eliminating the constitutional right that grants citizenship to anyone born on U.S. soil. The bold move, if successful, would overturn more than a century of established legal precedent rooted in the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. However, a federal judge quickly intervened, temporarily blocking the order after 22 states mounted a swift legal challenge. The 14th Amendment, ratified in 1868, clearly states that, quote, all persons born or naturalized in the U.S. and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the U.S. This clause has been the foundation for countless legal battles that have gradually expanded citizenship rights to various marginalized and oppressed groups. Trump's executive order, however, hinges on the interpretation of the phrase, quote, subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Trump's Justice Department, in defending the order, has cited historical legal cases to argue that birth within the U.S. alone doesn't automatically confer citizenship. A key element of that is the Elk versus Wilkins case argument based on the 1884 Supreme Court case Elk versus Wilkins. This case involved John Elk, a Ho-Chunk man who left his tribal nation and settled in Omaha, Nebraska, claiming birthright citizenship under the 14th Amendment. The Supreme Court ruled against Elk, stating that Native Americans, due to their allegiance to their tribes, were not subject to the jurisdiction of the U.S. and thus not entitled to citizenship. And why is this important? Who goes to national parks? Of course, all of us can, but, people, parents take their kids on vacation to a lot of areas with national parks. They go hiking, they stay at hotels nearby, have picnics, see monuments, whatever. This is, in many cases, since our teachings on Native American history are so awful in actual grade school. I mean, I was shocked when I went to Standing Rock and I actually spoke with Native Americans and learned a lot more than I was taught in regular public school. So a lot of the first exposure kids get to any semblance of the real history of America, which is genocide, murder, rape, kidnapping, happens at these parks. And now Trump wants to remove the signs, not just towards Native Americans, but our genocide and murder towards Black people. I mean, it's just vile and disgusting. It's truly vile and disgusting. And if you're MAGA watching and you think this is some great thing, and hey, Jordan, let the past be the past. Let's focus on, the good parts of America. Well, when you whitewash the bad parts, then history repeats itself over and over again when you whitewash history. We will stay on this. If you're a Native American watching, if you are a Black viewer watching, if you know of things like this happening in your community where the Trump administration or local government, Republican governments are trying to push the removal of certain artifacts, signs, museum items, please let us know. info@statuscoup.com, info@statuscoup.com. And please support Status Coup as a paying member for as low as 16 cents a day. That's statuscoup.com/join.